Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm building a dresser for my parents, and I had a really cool challenge for this one because I wanted to use just materials that I had on hand, and I actually was able to accomplish that for the most part. I think I only bought the handles at this point, and so I wanted to utilize scraps, quote unquote. However, you'll see that there's not scraps, it's just extra materials that I have from other projects, that instead of going and buying new things, just using what I had on hand. And I'm using beautiful white oak in this case. This is my second time working with it, and this is really important because the dimensions of the top will determine the dimensions of the whole piece in this case. So I'm trying to maximize my usage of the white oak by planing as little as possible, jointing as little as possible, but still keeping it nice and flat. And white oak is definitely a beautiful wood. It is expensive, it's pricey, but I had built a white oak countertop already a few months before this, and so I was able to utilize, again, the extra material. I'm not using anything but glue to keep this countertop together, or this top together. So once I had the top finished and complete, I set it aside and I started working on the face frame for the dresser. So this extra material that I had was 2.5 alder, I believe, face frame, and it already comes dimension at 2.5 and by 3/4 of an inch. And so what I'm doing here, I'm getting all my parts for the face frame, and then I move to the table saw to cut 1/2 of an inch so that it becomes 2 by 3/4. And this is for me to maximize my drawer. I like 2.5 sometimes. I like 2 inches for the face frame. It depends on the look. So in this case, I'm cutting it so it is 2 inches, and that's why I'm having to do this extra step. Then I add an extra element to the leg by coming to 1 inch in and then 3 inches up, and then marking from point to point line so that I will get just this little element for the leg that will makes it look nice. You'll see it later in the video how the legs look. And the way that I just cut this, because I don't have a bandsaw, I just use my jigsaw, and I was about 1/16 of an inch from the line. I was trying to make sure not to cut on the line, and then moving to my sander so that I can come closer to this. Now, if I'm honest, this was not perfect by any means, but that's what I like about painting projects, right? You can hide some of your mistakes, you can hide some of the things that are not perfect. And so this is what the leg looks. Now, my preferred method of attaching face frames is pocket holes. And a lot of cabinet makers do this. A lot of people that I've learned and seen do this because this is the perfect application for them. What I like to do is I like to mark all my pocket holes ahead of time so that I can drill them all in one sitting. And then I move on to build my face frame. Now, one of the tricks here that I've learned is make sure you start building your face frame from the top to the bottom. And this is important because you want your top to be flush, and you see I'm starting in one corner from the top, and then I have a spacer that I cut very accurate, and I'm gonna be using that spacer for every single opening that requires that spacing, obviously. And even if you do this, you will still have some errors, but you will see the errors at the bottom of the face frame, and that's okay because at the bottom it doesn't matter anymore. And so you're able to hide some of your mistakes in this case and some of the imperfections of the wood by starting from the top and then moving slowly to the bottom of the face frame. Now here I'm using the Craig clamp to make sure that the face frame is staying as flat as possible, and then also when necessary using clamps to make sure that I'm being as accurate as I had my drawings to be. Again, the wood is not perfect, and you'll have some places where you'll need to work it to make sure that it's staying as perfect as possible in this case, and then always measuring everything to make sure that you did a good job, and if you need to fix something, now is the time. Now, if you ask me, I hate this type of plywood. But again, the theme of the video is trying to utilize the materials I had on hand, and this is a piece that I've probably had for about 2 years. So I pulled out my circular saw and I just freehand a cut, brought it to the table saw so that I can, reference a square line and get a nice panel. Again, I don't like this plywood, but the project is gonna be painted, it's gonna be hidden, it's gonna be all good. Now off camera, I built the side panels of the dresser in the same way, use pocket holes, and you can see right here, I could have inserted this panel, but sometimes simple is just as strong, so I'm using glue and a ton of brad nails. Again, this is a way to build that still gives the look of an inset panel, but it makes it a lot simpler in this case. And so I'm using this ugly plywood, a lot of brad nails, and you can also see the detail of the legs right here. I think it looks really cool. So using more pocket holes to attach the side panels to the face frame. And one of the things that I like to do here is I like to make sure that I'm putting both sides side by side so that I know to mirror the panels. And again, way too many times I've drilled the pocket holes in the wrong spot. In fact, if you've done that, will you put a comment down below, and that's why I like to do it, put them side by side to make sure that I'm doing them in the right place. And so now, if you're still with me at this point in the video, I would love for you to consider subscribing. And one of the things is I haven't posted as many videos lately, but I'm excited to get back into it. So again, if you think I've earned your subscription, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, and I'll be uploading more videos hopefully soon. Now, I don't know about you, but every project teaches me a lesson sometimes, and sometimes I got to learn the lesson 2 or 3 times. But in this specific project, one small thing that I learned is that I need to make sure that my stretchers are wide enough. Right now, you're seeing the stretchers are only about 2 inches wide, and I learned that should be more like 4 or 5 inches wide. And the reason for that is it adds to the strength of the piece. Now, at this point, my dad actually came into town, and at this point, he didn't know that this dresser was for him, but he always likes to help whenever he's in town. And so, I had him sanding. He likes to sand. I hate sanding, and that's what that's for, right? Moving on to the next phase of the project, I usually like to buy drawer parts that are already pre-finished with the groove, rounded, ready to assemble, but following the theme of the video. I had some half an inch plywood, and so here I'm creating my own drawer parts. Nothing crazy, it just means that it's extra steps to get everything cut to the size, cut in the groove or the dado into it, rounding the corners or the top so that it's nice to the touch. Again, not a huge deal, it just adds steps to this. But I got to save some money by using some half an inch plywood that I've had for a few months. Here I'm trying to use my artistic skills by holding the camera while my dad does the round over, and that didn't last very long. Then here I'm doing a round over on all sides of the plywood. Again, this just makes eases the edges to be nice and soft, and it's just a very small round over, but it really changes the feel of the drawer. So you can just probably tell this is a hodgepodge of materials, and so my dad is using MDF in this case for the drawer fronts. And drawer fronts made out of MDF usually paint really nicely. You just gotta be careful with the edges because they absorb differently, so you gotta make sure that they're sanded very smooth. But besides that, MDF for the win in this case. Again, had this piece on hand, and it worked fine for the application. Now, guess what? I did not pick this paint. I had the paint on hand, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the previous homeowners left this paint. And so it's been in our house for several years, and we've never used it because we paint our house different colors, and I had enough for this paint to not throw it away, and so it was perfect. I got to put maybe 5 or 6 coats on everything, and so he gave it a really nice uniform coat, and not a bad color for the piece. It works. Here I'm using Ruvio for the top. So easy to apply. It's such a beautiful finish for this type of wood, and man, look at that white oak. I love it so much. Now, I really want to show you guys this trick, and I learned this from a cabinet maker here in town, and I've struggled so much with drawer slides for several years. But basically what he does is he grabs a piece of wood, a 3/4 inch plywood, and you attach the drawer slides to that piece, and then one anchor point at the front, and that's it. Now the back pieces are not attached to the wood yet, because as you put the drawers in, which I'm starting to construct right here, as you put the drawers in the cavity, then the drawers themselves will square the slides. And what you do is, after you put the drawers in with the slides, then you attach the back piece of wood to the stretchers. Right here you can see kind of in the back right there. So as I'm putting the drawers here, then I can go back, make sure that everything's square, everything works nice, and then attach that 3/4 inch piece to the stretchers, and it works perfectly, no issues. And so I've learned this from him, and I love this type of assembly for the drawers, because you don't have to mess with perfectly square edges, sides, face frame. There's so many elements. So you can see right here my drawers working nice, doing the mandatory soft close action, because hey, they're soft close, right? So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you learned something, you enjoyed it. Again, I already asked for your subscription and your like, and if you're still here, please do so. It helps me a ton. But if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I'm always trying to share what I know. It's not much, but I appreciate you all giving me some of your time to watch this video. Have a good one. I'll see you guys later. Peace.